Okay, I think we're going to get started. Welcome to our breakout session on financial governance. Thanks for attending Cloud Next and this session in particular. We'll try to make it useful and interesting for you. Quick introduction. My name is Phillip Coletti. I am a product manager on the cloud billing team here at Google. And co-presenting with me today is Antoine Castex from Veolia. He's a cloud solutions architect there, and also their product manager for how they offer GCP internally throughout the company. First, before content, my quick plea to you, please fill out feedback about this presentation. It'll be open about 20 minutes in. You can give us feedback afterwards. We take it very seriously. It's how we figure out what things you liked and didn't like so we can make sure that presentations are useful and entertaining for you. So now for content. I'm going to start us off with a quick story about a real customer. For the purposes of the story, I'm going to call this customer Casey. So Casey built a small web app on top of Maps platform. And Casey didn't monetize the app, but that was fine. Maps has a very generous $200 per month, always free tier, so up to like $2,400 per year. And Casey's app typically stayed within this free tier, so Casey was able to get Maps for free and provide the service to the customers for free. And everybody was happy with this arrangement. Casey would tinker with the app, improve the code, fix bugs, gather feedback from users, add new features. And then one day, Casey pushed a change up to the app, and everything seemed fine. And then at the end of the month, Casey received a bill for 80,000 euros. Casey was shocked and displeased, rightfully so. No one likes receiving large bills. Surprise. So Casey took down the app, reached out to support, and went into the billing console to see what happened. And as you can see in the chart, this was not a mistake. Somewhere around the middle of the month, the daily costs for this formerly free app had spiked to 10,000 euros per day. Now, Google Cloud Maps platform has the ability to scale up to enterprise production workloads. So it served all of this traffic, no problem. And digging into the issue, Casey realized that in that latest push, they had also pushed a bug, and this bug pinged the Maps platform API much more frequently than it had done in the past. So because Casey had already taken down the app, just fixed the bug in the code, redeployed, and costs went back down to normal. Everything was free. Everyone was happy. And we were able to work with the customer so that they didn't have to bear this burden, and we made them whole. And now a little audience participation. I want you to raise your hands if you are having flashbacks to something that remotely resembles this. It's an uncomfortable number of hands. Also raise your hand if you've experienced a surprise on your bill of some kind, maybe not quite that order of magnitude. Maybe like 25% of the hands in the group. And that number is too high for you, obviously, and also too high for us at Google. So we're actively working on giving you tools to make that easier. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The flexibility of cloud provides some fairly incredible benefits. We can accelerate innovation quicker with experimentation. We can instantly scale to meet the demands of our customers. But this flexibility also increases some of the challenges that we experience. It makes it more difficult to manage our costs, particularly in situations where we have a large decentralized organization and different business units or teams can provision resources on demand, and we pay for everything as we go. It is uncomfortably easy at times to go over budget and to not have visibility until those costs hit your final bill. So, in this session, I'm going to quickly walk you through some of the tools that we have on GCP that you can use to manage your costs more effectively. And then Antoine is going to show you what this looks like in practice at his company, Veolia, how they bring this down to the ground and put it into practice and help themselves save money. So our team at Google talks with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different sizes, across a variety of different verticals, both large and small. And we've heard many of the common concerns and issues related to managing costs in the cloud. With cost management tools on GCP, we're trying to provide you a pathway to more predictable costs. And we do this by helping you get greater visibility into your current and forecasted spend, helping you drive greater accountability across your organization, how you charge those resources and costs back to the different parts of your company. We also want to provide you with strong financial governance controls to help you reduce your risk of overspending. And we also hope to provide you with intelligent recommendations to help you reduce your costs and your usage. I'm not going to spend time on this last one today, but I do think about it quite a bit in my day-to-day work. And I'd love to chat with you if you do have thoughts on it, so please come and find me after the session, and we can kick around some ideas. All right, first, how do we hold our teams accountable for the costs that they incur in the cloud in this kind of decentralized world where we can provision things on demand? There was a much more detailed session on this exact topic earlier today, and you can go find, I think, a recording for that. It was Infrastructure 100. At a high level, on GCP, we use folders and projects and orgs to organize our resources hierarchically so that all of the costs roll up into projects, and projects roll up into folders, and folders roll up into your org. And this can be good for things like business units or environments where we want to strictly separate resources. But then there are other dimensions that might be cross-cutting across our organization. Things like development environment might be here, or things like workload type, so that you can find all of the costs for your databases across all of the projects in your company. And once we've set up our costs to organize them in this way, all of this data then flows downstream into our cost management interfaces so that we can charge back by these dimensions, monitor, or even visualize our costs by whatever dimensions matter most to our business. So now let's double click on that visibility aspect. Once we've organized our costs, we want to make sure that we can see them and understand how they spread out across the parts of our company. So the first primary tool we give you is our billing reports. These allow you to view your GCP costs at a glance, discover and analyze trends, and forecast our end-of-month spend so that we can predict what we're going to be spending by the end of the month and take action when needed if our costs are different than what we expected. You can slice this data by a number of dimensions, including project, product, label, region, or credit type. Sometimes we need even more detail, and this is when we turn to our BigQuery billing export. A best practice, you may have caught this from the presentation earlier, is turn on your billing export as soon as you can. It's one of the first things that we recommend you do in the billing console. It is the richest, most detailed source of billing data that we provide at Google. And it only starts from the time that you turn it on, so please turn it on early. You won't regret it. Using Billing BigQuery Export, you can build your own custom dashboards or even automate solutions. This is also the data that we use to empower our third-party ecosystem. And we provide a library of some common queries that you can write against this billing data set so that you can start with a good jumping-off point for your own analysis. Speaking of custom reports and dashboards, we do provide a good billing data studio template to help get you started. And this is also a great jumping-off point if you'd like to create your own custom dashboards. Antoine's going to show you some of the dashboards that they've built at Veolia. Hopefully that can serve as inspiration as you go on your own journey to figure out what dashboards and reports are useful for your business. Lastly, once we've organized our costs and we've gotten used to the basic reporting on GCP, how do we put in place the right automated controls and monitoring so that we can always be sure that we're not going to get a surprise on our bill? This is where budget alerts come in. Budget alerts allow you to put in place continuous monitoring on your behalf, because you can't always be looking at the cloud console to look for unexpected spikes. Budgets do that for you. You'll receive email notifications if your spend exceeds or is forecasted to exceed some predefined budget thresholds that you can configure. We also recently launched a budget API, so now you can programmatically manage your budgets at scale. Even if you have thousands of projects, you could, say, plug the budget API into your deployment manager, like Terraform, and then automatically create a budget for each new project during provisioning. For each budget you create, you can also add pub/sub programmatic notifications. This is a flexible way that you can do things like automate responses to your budget status. Examples that we've seen people do, and we also provide some templates through our documentation, is you could notify application owners in Slack. You could turn off or stop virtual machines to slow down the rate of spend in a project that's overspending. If a project is particularly discretionary and non-critical, you might even consider terminating the entire project completely to halt spending. While budget alerts allow you to monitor and reactively take action, quota control is another feature that we provide that can allow you to proactively put in place controls that will throttle your resource consumption and prevent unexpected spend from ever occurring in the first place. Think about this a little bit like a cell phone data plan, where you can put in place specific limits. But with that power comes an additional responsibility, which is when you turn on quota control, you're also throttling the resources that your service can use. So if you throttle a production service that's serving traffic to end users, that could degrade the service quality or even halt it entirely. So be careful. An example where you might use this is, let's say you set a limit for a project so that you cannot spend more than $100 per day on BigQuery analysis costs. Then maybe me, as a junior analyst, I come in and try to write a $10,000 query against a very large data set because I didn't partition, and I just queried the entire thing. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be stopped by the quota control before I ever ran the query in the first place. We offer quota control today for a set of services. It includes BigQuery and some other things like ML APIs. We're also working to expand the coverage to include additional services such as Compute Engine. OK, that concludes the brief whirlwind tour of cost management tools on GCP. And now I'm going to hand things over to Antoine to show you how they put this into practice at Veolia.
Thank you. So you know my name, Antoine. I'm in charge of GCP in Veolia. And my job today is to present you how we manage the cost on GCP and how we make a governance here on that. You probably heard in my voice that I'm not an English and not a US guy. So I will try to do my best for this presentation in English, because I'm sure you don't want this presentation in French, maybe. Before that, I have to introduce to you what is Veolia, because maybe someone of you know already Veolia, but not sure. We are a sourcer. It's a global purpose that all the 170,000 employees of Veolia have today, working in more than 50 countries around the world. And that's a mission. This mission is resourcing the world. That's not so easy. What does that mean? That means we want to limit the impact on the environment, on all the businesses that we have. And we just have 3 main businesses. The first one is the water supply. We recycle the water and provide that for approximately 100 million of people every year. The second one is the waste management. We do that for approximately 500 million of tons every year. And the last one is the energy. The energy for the industry, and we do that for 500 cities around the world. I'm sure you have seen that there is a cat on my slide, and don't worry, we will not have any plan to recycle the cat, okay? Now, just a quick slide to just tell you what is the cloud strategy that we try to adopt at Veolia. First step, we want agile architecture, and that means microservices. because we want to focus on the code and not on complex architecture. Of course, what I mean is serverless solution, because serverless is good for your money, it's good for the planet. We will speak about that just the slides after. No data center, because we don't have any data center in the name of Veolia, because Veolia is not an IT company. Google is doing that very well, and thank you. The fourth is secure by design. Like all of you here today, we want secure solution. This is why we try to adopt solution provided by cloud solution, like Google do, because it's natively secure. And the last one is multi-cloud. We say we want 2 cloud providers. The first one is why I'm here today. And the second one, sorry, I don't have the permission to make the logo, but I'm pretty sure you already know. First letter is A, last letter is S. It's on your side. Now, just one slide before going deeper on the technical financial part. The sustainability, because maybe you are thinking about why Veolia, why Google, we are very far away for the business that we have every day. But you can see on this slide that Google is trying to, and is also a green IT company. That means that all the energy that they buy is full green. And that's why Veolia loves company like Google, because we have almost the same purpose. Again, that means what? Resourcing the world. If you are on the Veolia side, we say every day at the office, waste is a problem. You are at a restaurant, you eat some food, you don't eat everything, you waste sometimes a lot, sometimes not a lot. But that's really a problem. Today, we adopt the same mindset on the IT. So we say we need to adopt a digital sobriety strategy. We have many examples of wasting in electronics and digital. The best example I can give you, for example, is my cell phone. I am in a very great company. I have a personal cell phone. When I come to Veolia, they say, I can give you another cell phone for your business. I say, OK, very nice. But having 2 cell phones is very complicated, and it's not very good for the planet. So I make the choice to have only 1 cell phone with 2 different lines to make some calls. That's an example of my personal life. If I make an example of why we are here today, is the cloud. We say we need to choose the cloud because we are here to choose the best solution for what we really need, and not choosing a very complex solution. And we are not just talking about the money, we are talking about the planet. I want to make a pause on this slide because with Phillip, we said this is probably the most important slide of the presentation today, because most of the time people focus on the cost. When you see you have an invoice or when you see an alert of a consumption, you just want to know how much. Of course, this is important because the money is important. But just don't think about the cost, but think about what is around that. About the fact that it can give you the opportunity to reduce the cost, of course, but detect maybe some fraud, detect some usage. How can I be sure that my teams is in the good way to adopt my strategy? A cost is not just only a cost. Be open. So, the governance. My slide is very close to the slides of Phillip, and that's very funny, but that's the reality. We say we try to adopt a governance GCP like we adopt in G Suite, like we have in real life. We are organized as a global but decentralized groups. We have folders that represent all the places in the world where we are. For this example, I choose Northern Europe. Inside this, you have all the countries where we are. We can choose France. Inside this, you have the different business units that we have in this country. Sometimes we have 3, sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have more. Inside this, you have the different applications that you have for the business. Here, you have a data lake, and you have a monitoring waste truck application. Inside this, you will find all the resources that you have, and of course, you have the label. And what is very important on this slide is it will help you to know, for example, for France, who and for how much money they are spending on the cloud. Because the billing table that Phillip will propose to you is containing the information of the folder, of the subfolder, and so on and so on. And as I say, we are a decentralized group. That means every month I have to rebuild all the countries that are using Google Cloud. We say, let's go don't hesitate to use the cloud, but at the end of every month, I have to contact the Germany to say, you have spent this amount of money, and I have to explain. How can I explain? We say the global IDs have everything in one place. Just remember, we have two cloud providers. We have the Google Cloud Bowling, which is automatically sent to BigQuery. That's very easy to do. But we have, on the other side, I can say the concurrent, but no, this is just the other game. Is sending his data to BigQuery. Of course, we have made some jobs to make this more on the BigQuery way than it was at the beginning. And at the end, we have everything in Data Studio, because Data Studio is a very easy tool to manage your cost. It's my opinion, but I'm sure you agree with me. So today, we have two different dashboards, but finally, they are not so different. We use the same mindset. And what it's very important for you to have clear and simple information. Because you are a technical guy, you know everything about a product, about a service, but maybe your dashboard will be used by a guy from the financial team, by your manager, by the manager of your manager, which is not aware that Kubernetes is not the same that Compute Engine. So your dashboard needs to be very clean and very easy to understand. If I take my dashboard, because I'm only in charge of GCP, I have a global summary every day. I can have the information about what are the biggest projects since the last 7 days, since the last 24 hours, what are the services that I use the most, and it helps me. And again, as I say, it can help Germany, because they can select only the project of Germany. It can help Europe, because the manager of Europe wants to know if Germany is more than France and make some comparison, and so on and so on. An example, I want to be sure that my team is agree with my strategy. They want to be more serverless. I have a page specific for Cloud Function. I have different information. What I want to know is, am I on the good way? I can see the invocation, and I can see from January to today, the amount of invocation, and I'm not talking about cost. I'm talking about how many invocation of function I have. That means more users are using this. That's only what I want to know. And here, I can say, OK, I'm on the good way. Another example, a service that I love, PubSub. Very amazing. You need to have on every project that you develop on GCP. I have made some mathematics before being in London, and I have seen that we have spent almost 1 billion of messages since January this year. And if you can say, how much does that cost to me? 59 euros. Of course, sometimes the story is not so beautiful. Sometimes you have good surprise, sometimes you have bad surprise. But this is why you have a simple dashboard here to help you to detect anything every day and very quickly. First part of my technical presentation about the feature that Phillip present to you, the budget alert. Very important. You have the budget API. Thank you, Phillip, again for this API. You can connect it to PubSub. Very easy to do, no lines of code. PubSub is here to say, hey, Cloud Function, can you wake up, please? And we decided to do 3 notifications. The first one is for the product owner. By the product owner, I'm not speaking about an IT people. I'm speaking about a guy who is out of the office working with final customer, which is not totally aware about what is a Cloud Function, what is App Engine. But he needs to be aware how much the product costs. The second guy is the project owner, I mean the technical guy in charge of the project in GCP, me or one of my colleagues that are here today. And the last one is Slack, because you have a team of developers that are using Slack to exchange some information, and they want to know where are this project going to, is that good or not. Second thing that I want to tell you, it's a story. And me, like Phillip, it's a really, really true story because it was mine. It was happening this summer. I come to the office, check my dashboard, as I say, very simple, very easy, and I saw this. Wow, maybe I have a problem. And my problem will be to understand what's going on very quickly and very easily. So I say I need to compare what's going on BigQuery since the beginning of this month. And instantly, I can detect that I have a problem. I'm not sure what is this problem, but I'm sure this is normal. This is not normal. Sorry. So how to prevent that? I have budget alert. There was no budget alert on this project. Shame on you, shame on me, shame on the team. But we know that now, every time we have a new project, it's mandatory to have a budget alert. Second thing, we make an export of everything it's doing on the platform to BigQuery. We use the Cloud Sync provided by Cloud Logging. It's totally free. And Cloud Function is here to detect if there is some baddest thing. I mean, if we want to check what's going on BigQuery, and we detect that someone tried to run 1,000 queries on the same project, after the first or the second one, we automatically send an email to him to say, can you check? I'm not sure your query is not very good. You just limit to just 2 queries, and you have reduced the impact. The third one we can do is using the features of BigQuery. Of course, you have the quota in BigQuery, you have the partitioning, you have the clustering, you have the cache. You have many, many, many features to prevent that. And the last one, I mean, of course, it's you, me, is documentation, exchange, and communicate. That's very, very important. Last part of my presentation is the self-as-a-service solution. We decided to move to a self-as-a-service solution because we think we need to control what's going on GCP. We need to be aware, we need to know who wants to have access, who wants a new resource, and who wants a new project. So we decided to develop a new portal with the ServiceNow team. Someone are here today from my team, and I want to thank them for the job that they have done. A portal is for everyone in Veolia. You create the item that you want. In my presentation, I will take the example of I want a project. I want a GCP project. I have a form. Sorry, the colors are not the best. I have a form. I need to give you the name of my project. I have a naming convention. I have to respect it. Of course, you have some technical stuff inside this to be sure that the guy is respecting this naming convention. I need to give you the name of the possible owner, me, another colleague. If we are two, it's better. I need to tell you from which business unit that I'm working for example, the water, for example, the waste. The perimeter of my project, if this is a project for France or for Europe or for worldwide, because it will change where the project will be. If I say the project is for Germany, that means that Germany will pay for this project. So when the project will be created, it will be created in the folders of Germany. And it will be more easy for me to rebuild Germany for that. You have the budget. You make an estimation. You say, I want to store petabytes of data on storage. I have seen the documentation. If you are not sure, you can contact the team to make a better estimation. And the last one, the environment. I want a production, I want a development, I want a test. We separate each environment by a GCP project, because natively and by default, a GCP project is separate to another one. We use this amazing feature for that. My team receive this request and say, oh, someone needs a new project. We need to make a check to see if everything is OK on our side. We have a summary of what I see and what I tell you before, the name of the project, the guy which wants the project, and so on and so on. Everything seems to be OK. We are on a stage when we are waiting approval. My guy or some other guy can make an approval. But before that, they are checking, again, everything is OK, the budget, the environment, and all the stuff. And now what's going on the technical side? ServiceNow, the form request, my team receive it, we check it, we make approval. That runs a cloud function. Very simple, very easy to do, very easy to develop. And what's going on? We create the project, and as I say, we put it into the folder of the business unit. If you say, I'm a German and I work for Germany, the project will be in Germany automatically. We put the permission for you and for the guys that you want. We link it to the billing account, and we create the budget with the alert that you have request. OK? of course, we monitor every step with all the stuff that Google provide, error reporting on this case, but everything is monitored. So what are the next improvements on this side? We plan to propose that for asset creation. I mean, we don't want to let people create some VMs, because it can also be a problem. We want to do the same for bucket. We have many, many ideas. We just need some time, but we have many, many ideas. We plan to send an alert to ServiceNow to say, hey, we have a problem on a project. This project is cost more than what you expect. Can you create a ticket and assign it to the good team? It needs to be aware that there is a problem, and this problem is P1. It's very important. And the last part is when you have a problem on an application, we want to inform ServiceNow, maybe this application is down, maybe because the budget was not enough, or we have decided to remove the billing account, or many, many reasons that we can have. But we want to inform ServiceNow because ServiceNow is on the central base of all of our users. I will let Phillip conclude. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. So wrapping up really quickly, I mentioned this before, but our colleague James Byers gave a presentation earlier today, Infrastructure 100, which was about how to organize your resources on GCP for more effective cost management and reporting. We also have 2 new hands-on trainings on our website, and the links are shown here. The bottom link, the cost management overview page, has a lot of great resources for how to more effectively manage your costs on Google Cloud. And we've been adding a lot more content to that part of our website recently, even over the last couple months and even weeks. So I do recommend you go there and check those out if you want to learn more. I think lastly, these sessions will be recorded and available on YouTube. So if you have any questions or you want to look back through the slides, feel free to go find those once they get posted. Once again, a sincere plea, please do fill out feedback about the sessions. And that will conclude it. Thank you so much for attending this session and for attending Cloud Next. We really appreciate it. We'll do a question and answer session now. I think people will have microphones and walk around. So just raise your hand, and a microphone will find you.
How does foldering lie in with budgeting? Do you typically create budgets at a folder level, or do you keep it at the project level?
Today only at project level, but that's a good idea. We are planning to do that on folder level. Why not? If the business unit say, I don't care about how many projects I have, I don't want to spend more than 10,000 euros per month. Okay, why not? But yes, that's a plan.
How do you link projects to owners? So if they have a billing problem, you know who to email.
We know who has requested this project. We are trying to get on the EAM if someone has changed, because at the request of the project and where the problem happened, maybe the guy is not the same. Maybe he left the company. So we get the IAM and we say, OK, today at this hour, these are the owner of the project, the identify. We have custom roles where we say this is the owner of the project, and we contact this guy. Email, SMS, Slack, different way, but we contact it.
There was a question over here on the end. I don't know if a mic made it over. While we're waiting, in the back? OK, please.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
You mentioned service quotas. What's the user experience like for when you hit a service quota for a developer?
Got it. I think it varies a little bit depending on the interface you're using and depending on which service it is. But for instance, if you're in the BigQuery console, you'll get a little red error message that tells you that you can't run the query because you're out of quota.
Okay. And follow up, how can a developer track their quota limits?
There is a couple ways. One is in the console, you can actually see progression against quotas. There's these little like pill bars that show you how much of the quota has been consumed. A second way is for many quotas, at least the ones that support quota overrides in the way that I just shared, there is reporting in Stackdriver for quotas. You can actually set alerts, so you could get a notification from Stackdriver as you hit, say, 90% of your quota. That's another way to do it. And then lastly, I believe I'll need to run this to the ground, but I believe you can also well, we have an alpha for a service usage API. It's a private alpha, and that allows you to actually both set these quotas programmatically and also query the API to understand how far you've progressed against your quota. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for presentation. So you mentioned at the beginning you have different cloud providers, 2 at least for the moment.
Yes.
How do you manage the consolidation? Imagine you have a financial at financial level. You want to have another view. How will you do that?
We have one guy like me. There is another Antoine in the company in charge of AWS. We are speaking as much as possible. So that's why we decided to make 2 almost same dashboard. But we are thinking about having just only one solution, but the billing are very different. I mean, I don't want to compare the both, but the billing of GCP is very easy and very clear. That's my opinion, sorry. And the billing of the other one, it's very complex. We have to remove a lot of lines because we just need a very simple thing. So that's a difficult job. I can give you more things if you want after, but yes.
Hi, another follow-up question on the quota system. So do you go ahead and, like, how do you find out the quota of a really expensive, like, how do you find out the cost of a really expensive query ahead of time or after the query run?
I'm going to repeat the question to make sure I understood. So you asked, how do I find out?
So say that you have an analyst that does a very expensive query. Do you evaluate that prior to running the query, or do you run it afterwards?
So it will be evaluated before the query is run. And if the query is going to be too expensive, they won't run it at all.
Could you give more details on how you do that?
Like mechanically under the hood, how they do it? Yeah. So for normal BigQuery analysis, it's priced per, I don't know exact unit, but data scanned. And they know the size of the table that you're trying to scan, so they can just let you know ahead of time how much data it's going to be and multiply that by the unit price and figure out what it's going to cost. And if that number is too high, it'll stop you before you run the query. Does that help? Awesome.
Hi, what's the update interval and the lag for billing and quota data? Like, does it update every hour and then it's always 6 hours behind, or?
Got it. So quota data is real time. Like if you spin up a new virtual machine, you've just used one, or we don't track quota in terms of virtual machines, but if you spin up a new VM with 6 cores, you've just used 6 cores of your GCE quota. Billing data is reported by services, and then there's a latency before it actually makes its way into the cost management interfaces that we showed here. It varies between services based on how long it takes that particular service to report their usage data. For some services like Compute Engine, they report in as little as 1 to 3 hours, and then the billing pipeline will run all the way through in another, say, 2 to 3 hours. So you get data within like 5 to 7. Some other services like storage report more like once per day, so your latency can be substantially higher. Although usually within 24 hours you'll have everything.
Thanks.
Yep.
I understand that you have a simple price calculator on the website.
Yes.
I was wondering whether is there a way, say, if I submit a Kubernetes manifest file, and you will be able to tell me how much it's going to cost me to run for a month?
I am not familiar with the details of what the Kubernetes interface looks like in the pricing calculator, but if you come afterwards, I can point you in the direction of someone who can probably give you a more specific answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Think we're maybe done with questions.
No problem with money. Everything is okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.